Moving to the state of Florida requires a ton of research, due diligence, and just generally everything else that would come along with possibly a full-on cross-country move. You have to pick the city you want to live in. You need to narrow down the neighborhoods, the amenities of the town. Are there not only cool things to do, but they orient to how you want to live individually? You can even throw in future development. I'm moving in a year and a half when my house is built. That's great. Looks awesome. But in 8 years, when a lot of this development is moved forward, is this also a place that I'm going to like? In today's video, like the title suggests, I want to discuss 5 categories, specific categories, that Sarasota, Florida not only wins, but is really being taken to the next level. An argument why it's not only one of the best places to live in the state, but could be the best overall #1 place for you. So I hope you enjoy that. My name is Adam Hancock. You have found your way back to the Florida Relocation Guide YouTube channel. And without further ado, let's get started. Okay, #1 on my list is Sarasota, Florida have the best combination of neighborhoods as they orient to the school districts. Obviously a massive topic here, one of the most, if not the most important overall, especially if you have children. We're talking 2 of the biggest concerns when you're looking to move to any area. Even if you don't have kids, all these same benefits are true for anyone trying to make a move. So I got 4 main things that I think are relevant. One is variety. Variety and abundance never hurt a buyer. And I've spoke about that a lot of times on the channel when it comes to neighborhoods, but that's the same with schools. You want to walk in and not evenly, but in some capacity, different parts of town, across the board, you want to be comparing a school over here versus a school over here for all the right reasons in the education and your kids' best interest reasons. But then you want to say, okay, we're not sure and we want to go look at homes. You want to have a fighting chance to replicate a scenario in both areas. You need that kind of spread abundance across the town. So you have price sensitivity, right? So you have let's say $200,000-$300,000 to $3 million. Can you do it all in one area? You have size and orientation and type of home. You have villa, townhome, single family, 2-story, 1, square footages, en suites versus not. Do I need a playroom? Do I need a backyard? Do I have dogs? Do I need a taller fence? Or do I want maintenance free? Can I do a pool there? I want to move in 3 years or I want to move right now. Can you do it all in one area? You need true variety for that to happen, and you need it to be pretty consistent across town. For Sarasota, Florida being a relatively small metro, you have a weird amount of all of that. This video is not about that. I'm not going to get crazy here. I've talked a lot about that on the channel that I'll reference here, but that's one is variety. #2 is location. So both on the homes in the neighborhood, both on the homes and the schools rather, can you go to, the coastal southern part of the county? Can you go to the northeast? Can you live in the middle and find a highly rated elementary school, middle, high, private versus not, sports specific, and then also do the same neighborhood thing? I think it wins both on variety and location when it comes to homes and schools. And one of the biggest factors in that conversation is that for the first time since I've read these numbers, Sarasota, Florida is the #1 overall public school district rated in the entire state of Florida out of 68 districts. It's even higher rated now for the first time ever than St. Augustine in St. Johns County. So Sarasota County basically covers all of Venice, all of Englewood, all of Northport, obviously the Sarasota city limits, and then the lower part of Lakewood Ranch, which is Waterside, is all in Sarasota County. Now there's some shades of gray there, and they're working through expansion and development as we go here. But that doesn't even count Manatee County, and most of Lakewood Ranch is in Manatee. And Lakewood Ranch has been a school district in that upper part, especially with the high school and Golet Elementary and Mona Middle, that people target and move to for reasons related to, a lot to the schools individually, both in sports and education. And that's not even counted in that rating. So that's 2. 3 is inclusivity. And what I mean there is more in the master plan conversation. So there's, a lot of cities maybe have variety of housing and they have suburbs versus not, etc. But the master plan environment for Sarasota is weirdly abundant. Like most of what I described is because of the push of Lakewood Ranch and Welland Park and then Central Sarasota really kicking it up behind, because they've intentionally planned these things. They were targeting these things and have these 30, 40-year plans, which allow you to come to town and have like a Pleasantville of sorts, like your school. You almost have these 15, 20-minute cities that they usually reference a downtown in. Like you can do everything you want to get to. They typically talk about you can bike or walk to everywhere you want to be in 15 minutes. I'm in a suburban way of like a 2 to 10-minute drive. What Lakewood Ranch and Welland Park are unbelievable. You have your own downtowns, you have your own retail shopping, you have your own schools built in. A lot of them are starting to be walkable with paths in the back of the neighborhoods to get to them. And A lot of even big cities don't have this kind of master plan environment, and Sarasota is 2 of the top in the entire country when it comes to master plan new construction. And that brings me to my 4th one, which is relocation friendly. If you're looking to relocate, it's not just moving. When it comes to the housing, what makes it a heck of a lot easier is if you have a lot of new construction, because logistically, when you're looking to move and you have to sell another house, the easiest way to plan that almost perfectly with differential of a couple months is to build a new house on a contract that doesn't affect a lot of your liquidity and doesn't affect your ability to get a mortgage because the timeline's so long. So you can plan, you can sell your house, you can maybe rent in between, you can fix your finances, you can clean up all your stuff. And then when you're getting close to your house build, then it's basically a wait and then hurry situation. So Sarasota, Florida's new construction abundance allows relocation to be a lot more feasible. And that's where we see a lot of people go, because buying a resale home remotely is not the most fun in the world. So if you're not in time crunch, again, we have a third of the new construction in the state is in this area pretty much. So that's my number 1. Okay, number 2 on my list, I'm calling unique luxury living. And I was in this thought exercise. I was talking to an agent on my team on the phone the other day, and we got into some random conversation about how, any city you go to, all have these like spots right off the bat. If you're from there, these are the nice parts of town. Highland Park to Dallas, Texas. You have Hyde Park to Tampa, Florida. West of the trail area, or Laurel or Burns Court to Sarasota, Florida, and you have where Aqua Lane Shores exists in front of downtown Naples. Everywhere has one. But most of the time, these are mature areas. These are the places that got developed first. There's a group of neighborhoods that are really, really nice, but the rest of town was developed after the fact. And for a lot of reasons, one or another, they don't work for everybody, because of a lot of what I was getting at there, that, Highland Park's a great example of Dallas. It's right in the thick of things. So, at one time, it probably was all affluent, but it's like so close to the city and it was developed over time. And North Texas went so crazy that, it's like a pocket that's really nice. Hyde Park is very, very similar. West of the trail in Sarasota is a group of 3 or 4 neighborhoods that really excel, but you go 1-2 miles outside of it, and then there's just not a ton of abundance. Not everybody, these areas don't work for everybody. So what if you want this level of living and you want that kind of insulation, that kind of level of luxury, and those don't work for you? Well, one thing that Sarasota has done really well is they've physically manufactured more ways for people to do this differently. And again, that's not all commonplace, right? Tampa, this is not the case for, in my opinion, in this way, right? So for instance, Lakewood Ranch, the average price point's in the 6s. A lot of the neighborhoods are more similar to each other than they're not. But if you wanted to go for like a different level, and you liked what Lakewood Ranch was, you wanted to be in that suburb, number 1 multi-gen in the United States, and you wanted all of that, and you wanted your money to go a little further. Well, that's like what they do at the Lake Club, but more importantly, the new one, Wild Blue, you're talking about, let's say, low 2-3 millions to upwards of 10 million. You have wider lots, 100% custom building. You have 2 amenity campuses for your HOA, and probably luxury condominium level living. And large bodies of water that you can live on lakefront. But then you're inside the Waterside District, which is one of the most sought after in the state right now. Its own downtown and everything. And then that's also inside Lakewood Ranch, which has all the downtown Lakewood Ranch, University Town Center's right down the street. So it's like value on top of value on top of value. Well, you could say, I'm looking to be a little closer to the beach. And, the problem with going to like a South Venice or something is usually that was where you went to go save a little bit of money. And it was a lot more like boater, kind of like mid-level homes for the most part. That does not have a ton of luxury down there, and it's a little older of a community. Well, then they throw in communities like Everly. So Everly's brand new, and you have mixed custom building again, large bodies of water, unbelievable amenities, and that's in Welland Park in the Playmore district, which has its own downtown. The entire district's 18 minutes or less to the beach. And it's this laid-back kind of coastal town, but you can get a more luxurious house that even your money goes even further than that. So now you can go to the 2 biggest suburbs that I got at earlier, but cross the line of also the house you want, right? Another option, so say you want to do condominiums, but in a little unique way, and you want to be around the downtown, but you don't want to buy a resale condominium in downtown Sarasota. Well, look at what the Quay is. So 14-acre waterfront district that sits behind the bay, in front of downtown, and a stone's throw from the Lido Beach Bridge. So what you are is your downtown Sarasota is walkable. You are probably 2 miles one way to Lido Beach. Siesta Key is 6 miles below it. Longboat Key is right above it. And then you have Anna Maria Island. and the entire little thing is waterfront on the bay. So it's unbelievable location when it comes to Southwest Florida. And you have multiple condominiums that you can choose from. So they have the Beso, you have multiple Ritz-Carlton residences over there. You have this new one called One Park, which is unbelievable amenities. So you can pick between a building that has 73 units, that has 122 units, that is branded by a luxury hotel brand. You're going to have these like public-private parks with yoga and all that kind of stuff. Ground level restaurants, ground level retail, and it all sits next to something called the Bay project, which is like a 50-acre funded like mixed use public park thing that is unbelievable. We'll show renderings here. That's all right next to downtown. And then just one more example for you. Then they'll throw in stuff like a building called Obsidian. So Obsidian, if you haven't heard of it, it's one of my favorite developer styles. So they built a building called the Collection 2, and the guy that sells it, I think he works for Michael Saunders, Michael Abrams, I think his name is. Fantastic. So I love the whole thing. You get romantic when you hear the presentation. And I just always like love the style of these buildings. So it's 18 stories, which is the height limit in Sarasota, because they don't want it to be a mini Manhattan one, right? So the most you can go is 18. But the thing about 18-story limit is you could probably put about 149 max units in an 18-story building. That's what the Beso is. This building's going to have 14 total units, 3 to 5 bedroom minimum. And you're talking like huge square footage, custom options, probably going to be 360-degree views because 14 units to 18 stories rather, right? So you're going to get some that have 360-degree. And this developer's done like terraces bigger than single-family homes in town and crazy, crazy stuff. Obviously, it comes at a premium, $4 million minimum. But the interesting combination of Obsidian is they put it on Palm Avenue. So Palm is probably my favorite street in all of Sarasota, beyond state. And it's like this. Looks like how Sarasota used to look. Yeah, it's hard to describe, but Palm Avenue is not a place you typically would see this kind of building. And so they do urban infill here. And it's just examples of where Sarasota's got really creative to say that there's not just one option to do these kind of things for your criteria, but probably several. And it just really opens the options up overall for a lot of different criterias. Okay, number 3 is amenity growth. And I'll speak with a little bit more brevity here because I've really probably beat this one up on the channel the last few weeks especially. But it can't go without saying again that, for a town like Sarasota, always excelled in beaches for sure. Siesta Key, Longboat Key, amazing. And, Cultural Coast, a weird amount of art galleries and theaters, et cetera, for its history. Because of its history. Downtown's great. You go west, you got everything. Everything's kind of 3-6 miles apart. That still exists and getting better with time all the time, probably. But for the same reasons that it excelled in stuff that was attractive to retirees, end of work career, like that paradise element, it lacked a little bit when it comes to the other commercial amenities, kid-friendly stuff, just larger demographic availability overall. But they built these neighborhood things so rapidly and the master plan things so rapidly that the commercial amenities were kind of lacking on catching up the new people it was attracting. And I feel like they're doing a really good job to solve that, in my opinion. One, just the idea of beyond the beach, you no longer have to come into town for everything when it comes to the suburbs because they've really satiated those with mixed-use downtown areas. Downtown Waterside Place is amazing. Even Fruitville Commons, which bridges the gap a little bit to the conduit of being a little closer to town, but not there. So it kind of bookends Lakewood Ranch. You have downtown Lakewood Ranch already existed. University of Town Center, what the Bendersons are doing, they put this multiple parks. You have most of the crew championships and stuff that exist in this park they built. But they have a luxury mall, and they cover like both sides of the street, everything you'd want. The Super Targets of the world, a bunch of restaurants, all that kind of stuff. Center Point's a new area, and this is all just in that northeast area. The middle of Sarasota's got a lot coming with the High Hat Ranch development. And then Venice did the same thing. They built their own downtown. So now you have the downtown of the town, but you have your own downtown for the suburb, which just gives you like all of the shopping, dining, living element. Schools are expanding, and you have all that kind of stuff too. And then they're really doing some other cool things I just wanted to call out individually, and we can get into more later. But the new Moat Aquarium, so Moat Marine Aquarium is like mostly a rehab aquarium, is on Lower Longboat Key right now. The brand new one, state-of-the-art, looks unbelievable. I'll show some renderings here, is being built in the University Town Center area. State-of-the-art library, which I mentioned in a video a while back, but this thing's going to be crazy in Lakewood Ranch. So this is going to have like entrepreneurial centers, and like it's so kid-friendly. It's huge, it's new and massive, and that's a fantastic option, especially if you have young kids that aren't in school yet, and you have another one that maybe is in school. So it gives you a lot of this quick in and out functionality and reading groups and all that kind of stuff. They're building a new water facility that probably a lot of people haven't heard of, like the state-of-the-art water facility that is going to be right next to the Premier Center, the Premier Sports Campus in Lakewood Ranch. Sorry, brain dead for a second there. But just a couple examples of the progressive development. And I think the new STEM-related schools and the Montessoris all over the place, that these are all really good signs that they're not only going to have the stuff everybody needs, like, big box retailers and some affordability and specialty stores like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, but they're going to have cool stuff, non-chain stuff, and stuff that a lot of times much bigger cities get that Sarasota probably shouldn't get. So that could be a nice little happy medium. All right, number 4, I'm calling infrastructure foresight. And this is the one I just briefly mentioned in the introduction. The idea of where development is going, is it still going to make sense for you now and to later? And I think Sarasota is doing a really good job with that. No city's perfect. Of course, the home builders always want to build more homes than we have streets for. But compared to like a Tampa or some other places I've been, I think they've done a really good job at handling like how the streets are going to be, guessing at when all these people are going to be in the homes, like where are the roads going to be, where the school's going to be. And I think, obviously we're playing catch-up mode. We're playing catch-up mode when it comes to housing. We're playing catch-up mode when it comes to schools on the line of Sarasota versus Manatee County and all that kind of thing, right? But if you look a couple years in the future, I think they're going to get on top of it to a point. Lakewood Ranch, if you look at this, the roads are all built in grids, and all of Sarasota is. So it's pretty easy to understand. It's east to west to town. Into the beaches, right? Because they're all, the west and the Gulf Coast, you fall into the water. And then north to south, you have the interstate and you have cut through roads like Tamiami Trail, etc. Lakewood Ranch is built the same way, right? You have Fruitville Road, which is that east to west street to get to town, which runs like this. And then you have University above it and State Road 70 above it, State Road 64 above it. And then what they did, you had the interstate, you had Lakewood Ranch Boulevard. These are going north to south. And then they added Lorraine Road, and then it goes to U-Line. And that's like the new area versus the other area in Lakewood Ranch. So you can this is how you can really predict what's going to happen. You can see what they're building now is it's going to be what they did previously, which gives you a lot of great way to learn. But you can see where they're going to go. And they have plans for all of it, right? You can see that they're going to continue to go out to Bourneside. They're going to start looping around, where when Lakewood Ranch is all said and done, it's probably going to sit somewhere in that lane of like, below the artistry area. And it'll be relatively central, because that is the room to go, is that direction. Well, then you have central Sarasota, they're trying to figure out what to do with that High Hat Ranch area. And a lot of the homes are zoned for like Hamlet, and it's like this old school area. And a lot of people don't want that development to happen. So they're still working through all of that kind of thing. But what this area exists, if you're not super familiar, is it's basically parallel to Siesta Key. So right now, Lakewood Ranch is northeast. So it's, it's like on a fringe, basically. And then Welland Park, the other big suburb, is very far south. But when they start developing that central area, which is a lot like, it's like the before the Mayaca kind of area, like before the real country housing, then it'll also give us a suburban option that is parallel to the beach, is a little closer to town because of the shape of the state, and just central to everything if you're not someone that wants to be like northeast of town by 45 minutes or something like that. And then you start working your way down. They already had a suburb called Palmer Ranch. And then below that, you have an area called North Venice, and you have Nokomis and Osprey. So basically, it's like the east to west of below Siesta Key. It's the Venice area, Casey Key area. And they're really, so 2 new hospitals went down there. So Sarasota Memorial, which is our basically Tampa General, it's our big hospital. It's based like basically in downtown Sarasota. Well, they're going south. So they put one that's right on the fringe below city limits of Sarasota. They put one in northern Northport. And the way the roads out there are going is they're basically doing all these cut throughs. So it's going to be easier to east to west on like River Road and Center. And they're going to give you easier ways. They're cutting more Fruitvilles over there. So they're going more east to west to get to the beaches, to get to downtown Venice. And all the bottlenecks that are going to exist are because everybody's on I-75 trying to go from exit 200 up to 213 or 210. And then everybody's stuck on Fruitville or Clark or Bee Ridge or something like that. And the more passageways they give, where it's not just a Tamiami Trail versus I-75 bottleneck, the better. And that's stuff, I've been to a lot of cities where they have, the bridges of the Skyway and all this kind of stuff, you are just sitting. And there's not a lot they can do because of how many more people got there than they can handle. And because of all these work districts, are in 2-3 areas in total in town, and one accident, you are screwed. And because Sarasota does not have the economics things with the job stuff, and you're not going to these parts of town like Lakewood Ranch or downtown Sarasota for to get to your workplace for the most part, then people aren't driving those same times and those patterns, and it's easier to figure out. But anyway, I've seen a lot of plans. I think they're being smart with it, right? I think they're always going to be behind, but not in a way that's going to make this town's quality of life far, far worse than you originally planned. And if you want all the cool stuff and you want all the cool stuff I explained earlier in the video, it's going to come with some of the minutia, but this, I think, they're doing a pretty good job. Okay, my fifth and final point for this video, maybe a little bit more pie in the sky, not my normal approach, but it's the idea of simply being an inviting and welcoming community. And, you know, it probably depends on who you are and how you approach life, but I feel like Sarasota is this weird bubble that when you move, people are excited you came and they're excited that they're there as well. And a lot of it's because we're just simply a melting pot. There's probably a lot more people that are 3 year older versions of what you are than there are of Adam Hancock in 1986 being there. So because of that, though, the intentionality is at this like such a high level because people's dream was to move there, especially if you came from like a climate that wasn't as attractive or politics you disagreed with, or for whatever reason, you're working from home and you weren't. People are so pumped to be there. And even 2-3 years removed are still driving around like it's paradise every single day because the quality of life increased so heavily for them and they were targeting it. And now this dream is accomplished. But they're not like, this is mine, this isn't yours, in my opinion. And that's a great thing to walk into when you're there. Even if you visited like a master plan suburb especially, you would see that. If you're floating around, the chance that people are sitting at Libby's in Lakewood Ranch and they're at one of the couple neighborhoods that you're targeting as well, and they just got there 5 years ago and they're from New Jersey or New York is probably pretty high. So I think that's a great thing. You know, agent on my team, I've said on here before, but he likened it when he moved from New Jersey that it was like being a freshman in college again. Is that, you know, especially you're an empty nester, your kids aren't with you anymore, and you're moving to a new place you've never lived before, and you're like, how am I going to randomly meet people, especially if I'm not hyper social, right? Like, when's that going to happen? Well, because most of the people around you are probably in a similar boat, it creates a lot more advantageous environments for that kind of stuff to happen. And I don't feel like everywhere is like that. I think there's a lot of places that the locals have this mentality of like, you know, my paradise is going away. And don't get me wrong, Sarasota has a lot of that too. And there's goods and bads to it. And this probably has its place in certain, you know, development's not always good. But at the same time, like you can't stop a moving train. And I feel like Sarasota embraces that really well. And probably an area that you would target from, if you're watching this YouTube channel, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised and probably find like your tribe, in quotes, a lot easier than you thought. So just wanted to end with that one. And if you give me a second, we'll wrap up. Okay, that does it for today's video. Really hope you enjoyed this take. Again, if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Florida Relocation Guide is a great place to subscribe if you're really trying to navigate anything to do, especially with relocation, new construction, but real estate in general when it comes to the state of Florida. I go pretty macro on this one. We divide large areas versus each other in a quick amount of time. And these are the general struggles. How do you pick between Tampa, Naples, and Sarasota in a relatively short amount of time? How do you narrow 40 neighborhoods down to 2? You know, how do you know resale versus new, pros and cons, all that kind of thing. So we really try to make you the smartest consumer, very economics, analytical approach. We want not only your quality of life to be good, we want your money to be good as well. So please consider subscribing if you've been hanging around a while, or even if this is your first visit to do that. I hope you'll be pleasantly surprised. My name's Adam Hancock once again. And one more thing to consider, the sunshineStateCo.com is like my main foundational website. And that basically takes the baton a little further from what this is. So we have long form video here, right? It's not always applicable to you, and it's, you know, it's tough to consume. I can't speak brief. But on the website, we have downloadable guides. You know, description box below, we have a brand new Sarasota one that we just updated. So it's like 15, 20 pages. It's a flip book, absolutely free. We have a brand new Tampa one. We have a new construction specific one. And these will talk about like actual neighborhood recommendations, new construction recommendations, favorite restaurants for 2024, places to take your kids. And it'll go a little further in that kind of entertainment quality of life spectrum. We also have blog formats for most of the videos on there if you'd rather read or consume that way. And they're like 5-minute long reads, way shorter versions. And we have a newsletter that's different than anything else. Everything I'm kind of working on, we have a stream of consciousness newsletter that's like pop, quick bullet points. And we'll talk about events and all that kind of stuff too. So if any of that strikes your fancy, check that out at your leisure, the sunshineStateCo.com. And lastly, if I can help you in any way in the real estate market, I have a full-scale real estate brokerage called the Sunshine State Company. all residential and not just relocation or new construction. It's everything. We have a really unique team. We can help you buy, sell, invest, anything you want to do. Give us a shout, text, call, email, any way to find us. And thank you guys so much for taking a little bit of your day to watch today's video, and we'll see you on the next one.